Hello, and thank you for visiting us here on the Political Napalm. This particular episode will be devoted to discussing Trump's cabinet picks that he's announced so far, and we will be going into the issues or the sort of pigpen cloud that surrounds a whole bunch of them. And we'll get into it pretty quickly, as this could potentially be a long episode. This is one that several viewers have requested. It is one that I certainly plan to do, and I've been trying to find the time to do it, as the end of this week was a little sketchy for sitting down and doing it, but enough people were requesting it, and I've finally gotten some time to do it. Plus, to do a fair episode, we needed to let some of this stew a bit longer and make sure some of them were true and some of the stories to come out. So let's go ahead and jump into it. The White House Chief of Staff pick is Susie Wiles. Susie Wiles can be searched, of course, on the net. This Politico little article has a lot about her over here. She was a veteran of Florida politics. She was a campaign director and a senior advisor with Trump. She is supposedly credited for running a disciplined campaign, which is, of course, a really rough thing to do when it comes to Trump. You got to admit, what is a, quote, disciplined campaign when he has Hulk Hogan failing to pull open a shirt on stage at MSG, and he's over at the RNC after the extremely racist comments he made about Brooke Hogan's boyfriend and used the N-word several times in reference to him. Of course, his predilection to having sex with a good friend to his wife, which was completely consensual. Let's be clear about that. This was not a hidden affair. The dude was in the other room, and said wife discussed what it was like to have sex with Hogan to the husband. Of course, Hogan and Trump have ties to the McMahons from the WWE. Linda McMahon is part of the campaign. Linda McMahon and Vince McMahon are on the hook for the WWE sex allegations that are going on over there. And the old issue that is going on about the staffer in the 80s, I think perhaps... I forget what position he had, but he was grooming ring boys and everything like that. Linda was part of that particular suit, where the current one is simply about Vince McMahon. So the other thing that is pointed out, and this was a random comment in discussions on Susie Wiles, is that how can you... This is my thought. How can you say something is a disciplined campaign when you are potentially one of the people approving those Puerto Rican jokes that were told at the MSG rally? That was one of those moments in the Trump campaign where you're like, that's it. Stick a fork in him. He's done. And that is why the election is such a surprise in so many ways. That was such an offensive thing to say, especially that close to the election. It sort of became the 2024 equivalent of the "but her emails." And it was so offensive and it was so disgusting. Joke or not, it really was sad. And when you have these hardcore MAGAs that are like, thank you for pointing out that Puerto Rico has a garbage issue, they would turn it into something positive. Like, okay, we brought this to light. Let's go investigate it and fix it. It just... I cannot describe in words how pathetic that is, both to hear what he said and then watch people try to twist it into being something positive. If you want to say, oh, it's just a joke, lighten up, that's at least a valid attempt to defending it. But saying, oh, you brought a garbage issue in Puerto Rico to our attention, no, not at all. And then Biden does not do a super good job of getting a coherent thought out there when he goes to say, you know what's garbage? His supporters are garbage. The entire context of the clip, the 24 seconds or so that he's answering that, clearly states that he's talking about the supporters of the comedian, because right after that, where he says his supporters are garbage, he says, and the things that he said about Puerto Rico and blah, blah, blah. Trump was not saying these things about Puerto Rico, so Biden was not applying that to Trump. He was not saying Trump's supporters were garbage. He was saying the comedian's supporters were garbage. Is that a good phrase to use when you're talking about supporting somebody who's not political? You were supporting Oprah, you were supporting Bruce Springsteen, you were supporting Kevin Sorbo or Nickelback or something like that. That's not exactly the right word. And that was a major trip up on his part. He should have said his defenders, or his apologists or something like that. But he was very clearly in the broader context talking about the comedian's supporters, not Trump's. But of course, the Trump supporters immediately were like, "We're garbage now, yay!" And they were wearing garbage bags, and Trump is failing 3 times to get into a garbage truck, and it is the people who are wearing tampons on their ears. It is the people who are wearing diapers and saying real men use diapers. The lengths that these people go to stay in the cult and visibly in the cult is just astronomically stupid. You would think they were walking around on Halloween wearing garbage bags as their, Halloween outfits and everything. In reality, they actually were. But it's because simply the MAGA accounts were posting a 9-second version of that clip, cutting it off and clipping Biden's context, where it's certainly very easy to believe he's talking about Trump supporters and having flashbacks to 2016 with the deplorables comment from HRC. And there was somebody who called into the CNN debate ahead of Kamala and Trump, where she was like, I hope she takes the high road and, does not go after Trump's people. I have a lot of people that I know that turned on Hillary after the deplorables comment and everything like that. So that language seemed to have some effect in 2016, and it may have had an effect again. But the thing is, Hillary said what she said, and she meant it. No context changes that. Biden was not referring to Trump supporters, but it was contextualized that he was, as so many Trump photoshops and clipping did to Biden. So yeah, that was not great. But okay, back to Wiles. Washington outsider, very little experience in federal government, doesn't speak publicly a hell of a lot. She's not a in front of the camera type person. She's behind the scenes. She was credited for saving DeSantis' struggling 28 campaign, which, ironically enough, Trump says he was the one who saved it. But then Wiles later split with DeSantis, prompting the Florida governor to try to convince Trump to fire her ahead of his 2020 campaign. Wiles apparently wanted revenge on that, and she used her close-up knowledge of DeSantis to dismantle him when he ran against Trump in the GOP primary. You have to wonder why he didn't participate in that. He was like, oh, it's because I'm the front runner and I'm so far ahead. And it really saddens me how many people were so vehemently anti-Trump up on that stage, except for people like Vivek Trump or Swampy, more on him later, and then just turn the corner and be pro-Trump like Burgum. And Nikki Haley, you really believe she had a shot at staying against him, but didn't, and then started to sue people who were like, women for Nikki Haley became women for Harris, and she was really upset about that and tried to sue them. I had some faith in her. Conversely, if you happen to be a Trumper, you could say, well, what about Kamala? Wasn't Kamala accusing Biden of being racist and everything like that? It seemed the dislike between the two seemed very isolated to very, very small points of that campaign. And then it was very quickly like, yeah, we're on board after that. The Trumper ones have had a history of being anti-Trump, like Lindsey, like J.D. Vance. and they just turn the corner and they kiss the rings. So back to Susie Wiles. She has worked for Mitt Romney, Rick Scott, former Florida Governor Jeb Bush, once Trump's chief rival for the GOP nom, called Wiles a great choice for the chief of staff. Encountered skepticism with fellow Republicans, but she felt that none of the others running for the White House represented the kind of change she felt Washington needed. So she, basically went over to the Trump side. She is a lobbyist. She turned Trump's dysfunctional political universe into something organized. Again, I don't really know that I agree with that. Here's the lobbyist stuff here. Lobbyist for tobacco company Swisher International. Lobbying giant Mercury, who I don't know, but apparently Mercury goes with SpaceX. Well, that figures. AT&T, Embassy of Qatar, but she's not registered to lobby for any of those. This one would be dangerous because I think she would have to register as a being functionally working for out of the country people on that one. So it's good that in her regards that she stays away from that one. She's the daughter of legendary sportscaster Pat Summerall. Trump's new chief of staff, Susie Wiles, was ID'd last night as the quote-unquote PAC representative in the Southern District of Florida. Indictment is alleged that Trump was the one who had showed her the map, the classified map. So she might be the female voice on the audio tape where he's like, don't talk about this, or I shouldn't be talking about this. Trump met in his office at Bedminster Club with a representative of a PAC. During the meeting, Trump commented that an ongoing military operation in Country B was not going well. He showed this person a classified map of Country B. And yeah, okay, so it seems she is the one that is on that audio tape where he's like, oh, hold on a second, let me show you this map, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, okay, or, laughs about it. So that's Susie Wiles. Marco Rubio's the one who has been out in front of some video cameras lately and saying, are you recording? Yeah, there is going to be no ceasefire. Record that, print that. He's just super aggressive in being pro-Israel. Now, there is something that I want to state over here in the interest of being fair and transparent. I grew up with a lot of pro-Israel influences. I had a good friend whose mother came over to the United States from Israel, served in their military. Israeli women are legendary in the military over there. That friend's older brother would regale me with stories of the Israeli Air Force, the small tank battalion that held the Golan Heights before it became a movie. I heard that story as a kid, as I was living in an area that was about 30 to 35% Jewish. So I would be exposed to a lot of that culture, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs. That friend had his bar mitzvah on a mountain in Israel. I can remember he had said that he'd gone there with his older brother and the older brother's girlfriend, and the women would come streaming out of the buildings, telling her to get her shorts off and put on pants. She's distracting the men from their studies. Another good friend of mine that I worked with as a teenager had moved here from Israel when she was 8. So I had a lot of pro-Israel influences, and for the most part, I would personally side with them in a lot of things. However, when Israel does something wrong, if they show a lack of deference to humanity and they do evil and vile things, they absolutely need to be called out. There should be a two-state solution in there. There should be an amicable split of what is going on over there. Hamas's terrorists should be quelled. Palestinians should be able to live a life over there. It should not be a one-state thing with Israel by any stretch. But Marco Rubio is one of those types that wants it the other way. This very aggressive pro-Israel stance. And we're already seeing buyer's remorse of the Arab groups in the United States, especially up in Dearborn, Michigan, where Trump went to them and said, he signed peace plaques up there. He actually promised them a solution that would be fair or at least favor them to some degree. And anybody worth their salt in just some form of political intelligence knows Trump would not do that, that he is very much in bed with Netanyahu. And then when Trump lost in 2020, Netanyahu was disposed in Israel not too much longer after that. So it's very much conservative birds of a feather go together over there. And, meeting with Netanyahu while he's on the presidential campaign, which is not something you really think you should be doing. Meanwhile, Kamala and Biden have spent the majority of the summer trying to work on a ceasefire, and Netanyahu was the sticky point there. So for these Arab Americans who are signing these agreements and now sending letters to Trump, but they made it to the White House instead by mistake, they're now experiencing buyer's remorse going, uh-oh, what did we do? And little Marco Rubio is one of the people who's out there going, yeah, no, that's not going to happen. Matt Gaetz. Let's get to the Matt Gaetz stuff over here. That's some of the RFK stuff. We will come back to that. This is Matt Gaetz's wife's sister. And she was one of the people that when the first investigation into Gaetz for sex trafficking came around, she was one of the people immediately calling him creepy and everything. And she's in the family. She has spoken out about Gaetz several times. And that first investigation with his buddy, Greenspan, turning evidence and everything, I think it was Greenspan, it seemed to just sort of disappear. Well, several months before the election, it absolutely resurfaced. And if you don't remember some elements of Matt Gaetz, let's discuss them. In Congress, he all of a sudden revealed during one hearing that he has a son named Nestor. He was not married to a person who fathered Nestor. Nestor is of Hispanic descent. It is similar to the Mike Johnson case where he has all of those Caucasian children and he has one child that is a person of color that never is in the family photographs, never gets talked about and everything. Nestor and the Mike Johnson son bear some similarities in that they are sort of this hidden son that nobody talks about. Any picture of Gaetz and Nestor that we saw back at that time, Nestor never seemed happy, and there was no seemingly real explanation of how Gaetz has this at least partially Hispanic son. And that raised a lot of questions. Of course, at the time, it was being said that he was using Venmo to pay people that would go out and get girls, and there would be drugs and parties and sexual favors and everything like that. So that's what was dogging Gaetz the first time. And Kevin McCarthy called that out. And that is why when the Republicans were trying to elect that Speaker of the House, there was so much back and forth over there, is because McCarthy was speaking out against Gaetz, and Gaetz is like, well, you're not going to be it and everything. So that's one of the issues with Gaetz. Here's John Corman saying the exact opposite of Mike Johnson, saying that there will not be limits on this investigation. Whatever we find, you are going to hear, and that, Mike Johnson's trying to bury this stuff, but no, that's not going to happen. It's not going to get buried.
have concerns or could potentially
check in on that.
I think there should not be any limitation on the Senate Judiciary Committee's investigation, including whatever the House Ethics Committee has generated.
I barely know Gaetz. All I know is he likes picking fights on social media. But at the end of the day, you got to have the votes and you better have the resume. That's how this process works.
But it's still an open question, Wolf, about whether or not he can actually get the majority of the Senate to confirm his nomination, because there are more than 3 Republicans right now who have concerns or could potentially vote.
So, yeah, that's a very interesting thing with Gaetz. He's resigned his current position, and the appearance is, well, he's resigning so that he could take this nomination when it comes up and give people time to vote in his replacement and everything. But the flip side of it is that, well, if you were leaving the House, you can't be subject to a House investigation because you're not part of the House anymore. But the thing is, if it's ongoing in midstream, can you really dodge that? And of course, on a larger scale, that is the question of Trump, because he's been elected president again. What about all the things that are ongoing? The J6 case, the documents case, the E. Jean Carroll stuff, the Stormy Daniels stuff. I mean, there's so many outstanding cases against him, despite what Eileen Cannon tried to do down in Florida. Those are valid questions over there. I honestly think they should continue and absolutely be made to be public, because there are scopes of people just sitting there waiting to find out what's going to happen with Gaetz from the first time and the second time. Also, another thing about Gaetz is he was the only vote against a anti-trafficking bill. Only vote. Who is one person standing alone saying trafficking is good? One of the key lines is she was a high school student, had braces, there were witnesses. Of course, people got to check Venmo and everything. This is bad for Gaetz. This has been dogging him for a while. And in all honesty, the Trump campaign is stupid for trying to tap somebody with such a dark history. Trump should be smart, or somebody should be smart in the Trump campaign, maybe Susie Wiles, who should be getting this man to rehab his image. And pulling Matt Gaetz is not rehabbing your image. That is controversy. He pals around with Lawrence Taylor. Lawrence Taylor is on the registry. Anton Lazaro has been busted. Rudy's trying to unzip his pants for a Borat movie and is on audio telling his secretary, you see these, meaning lady parts, these are mine, and everything like that. I mean, he should distance himself from controversial people and try to get smart and intelligent picks, but he's picking yes men. He's picking conservative firebrands, air quotes, that have just tried to prove that they're pro-Trump the whole way. Everybody's waiting for, there was a joke about Fat Bert, Lauren Boebert, being Secretary of Education and Director of Education, which is funny because he's doing away with that department. I think Marjorie Taylor Greene should be Sasquatchian outreach director. Go out there and get the caveman vote and everything. Same thing for Bongino. Bongino and Marjorie Taylor Greene should be married and have little Sasquatch Neanderthal kids. Those two are perfect for each other. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, one of Trump's lawyers. Yeah, that's, smart there. Just pick one of your own lawyers to be Deputy Attorney General. Now, Todd Blanche should go up here to the Gaetz level, and there should be no Gaetz. But Todd Blanche is also the person who said, yes, I think the president should be able to, go and get SEAL Team 6 out there to carry out something that he wishes, because he's an acting president. If that's assassinating a rival, well, then, he's acting as a president. That is god-awful ridiculous. Health Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr. Okay, Robert Kennedy Jr. This guy, Robert Kennedy Jr., let's just jump into the things that he said. He is a vaccine denier. He's not a skeptic. He's a denier at this point. And when he keeps saying, I'm not saying all vaccines are not safe, and there was actually a news reporter who said, nope, roll the footage, and countered it right there where he was at a speaking engagement and said, all vaccines cannot be trusted. Robert Kennedy Jr. is responsible for going to the island of Samoa, convincing these Samoans not to use the measles vaccine as it causes problems. And then there is a measles outbreak on Samoa that kills like 80 people, including children. He had so many affairs on a wife and kept them in a diary. The wife got a hold of that diary and then committed suicide. I think he had like 37 affairs. I think it's called dysophonia, that shaking thing that he has with his voice that sounds like he's 90 years old, and Burgess Meredith from the Rocky movies, that he blames on a flu vaccine, which to me is utterly ridiculous. Here's one of the things he said: AIDS is not caused by a virus. It's not a virus. These people are dying because of poppers. They were people who were part of a gay lifestyle. It's not a viral disease. It's a disease of the environment. Look at RFK yourself. I mean, the knowledge out there, the anti-RFK knowledge out there is tremendous. The whole Kennedy family has backed away from him. They've all said he is a complete kook, but to say that AIDS is not a virus and it's not caused by a virus is ridiculous. He is doing Alex Jones level of stuff. So Alex Jones is known for saying there's chemicals in the water that turns the frogs gay. And that has been riffed on for years. It's been made into a little auto-tune song and everything. But yeah, let's hear RFK's version of this one. I think that's Stu Peters over there that he's talking to.
The same kind of level of tyranny, as far as I'm concerned, that characterized the vaccine lockdown. Help me sort that out and understand where you stand.
I see these huge levels of depression and despair, loneliness in kids, and I don't think that there's a single cause to it. And I think blaming it on, depression about climate is probably oversimplistic. And in fact, I think a lot of the problems we see in kids, and particularly boys, it's probably underappreciated that how much of that is coming from chemical exposures, including a lot of the sexual dysphoria that we're seeing. They're swimming through a soup of toxic chemicals today, and many of those are endocrine disruptors.
There it is. There you go. There's the frogs gay as applied to now the humans are gay. Yep, there we go. Tank full of frogs. I'm not too sure if that guy is Stu Peters at the beginning. Is that Stu Peters? He looks familiar, but just I want to double check that one. No, yeah, that's Stu Peters is this guy. I know the guy from the beginning of this video. I recognize the face, but I forget who it is. He's one of these deep right crazy guys. But yeah, there you go. There's basically frickin' frogs gay from Alex Jones, except now it's changing the boys and everything like that. This is, you had so many people for years say that these vaccines caused autism and everything like that. And you can rightfully say to me, well, political napalm, there have been a rise of autism diagnoses in recent decades. Maybe there is a correlation. No, it's that autism is more easily recognized and tested for now, including adult levels of autism, which there may have been people that were thought of as hyper or an inability to focus. And I think, yes, maybe in the 90s there was an over-medication phase where it was like, hey, I think I looked out the window in class today and saw a bird. Ritalin. I can admit, I think in the mid-90s that was happening to some degree, but I think things have balanced out now where people are getting properly diagnosed, getting the proper medication and ways of living their life. But this push that vaccines are bad, and every time that happens, measles breaks out. God forbid something happens with polio and we're doomed. This person hopefully will not pass their background checks and not come into power, because this would be extremely dangerous if RFK gets there. Here he is. Let's see what he's saying in this one.
Under his watch, by 86, we had 11 vaccines and it had doubled. By 2006, under his watch, it went to 54%. And I will tell you this, that every child is damaged. 54%, those are the kids who made insurance claims. What about the kids who lost IQ, 1 or 2 points, who are depressed, who are not functioning, who are socially awkward? All of these injuries that are invisible from the vaccines. We know, you know, if you've ever compared an unvaccinated kid to a vaccinated kid, you see the bright eyes and the engagement and the social interactions and the curiosity and the affection and you compare them. The child even had 1 or 2 vaccines and they're completely different.
I don't know where on earth he would get that from. That seems utterly ridiculous. This thought that vaccinated kids are zombies and everything, and this goes along with the QAnon stuff, the typical Michael Flynn stuff that was happening during COVID. That you can check this out. He said these things that at least Michael Flynn did, that COVID vaccines have zombie nanoparticles in them that activate the 5G. God. And it's always the right wing. You never see a Democrat that is, or maybe they're smart enough to not expose themselves, but you never see publicly facing, social media facing Democrats that are ridiculously anti-vaccine, chemtrails, COVID vaccines are bad, Fauci is the devil, prosecute Fauci, my pronouns are prosecute Fauci. This is crazy talk. And to think that he could become in a position of power for health in the United States is ridiculous. Now, he himself is physically fit. We've seen the pictures of him with his shirt off and everything like that. And that is what they believe Trump is, or they try to make Trump out to be, which is ridiculous. Biden himself is far more physically fit than Trump, which is kind of laughable for the Trumpers and everything. But, this is a guy who had brain worms. He, went and sought out medical help and found out that parts of his brain were eaten by worms. This guy is just completely nuts. But listen to what he's saying here about pausing developments in health and drugs and viruses and everything.
I'm going to go to NIH. My first week, I'm going to call all the division heads and I'm going to call all the bureau chiefs. And I'm going to say, we're going to give drug development and infectious disease a break, a little bit of a break for about 8 years. And we're going to study chronic disease. And I'm going to go to...
First of all, the people that just do the little quick nods over there on the right, that's ridiculous. Studying chronic disease is certainly fine, but pausing drug development and things like, no, that should not be happening. We should be seeking cures for cancer and things like that. I have a company near me called Humacyte that is working on synthetic blood vessels so that if somebody has a bypass, they're not harvesting blood vessels from somewhere else in your body that are known to cause issues like neuropathy. I have family members who've had triple bypass and they harvest the vein in the leg and everything, and then they get neuropathy in that area. They're working on synthetic vessels that could be used so that doesn't happen. that's the kind of stuff that needs to continue. And for him to pause something like that is just positively, utterly ridiculous. I mean, work on chronic disease is fine, but at the expense of something else, whatever. Elise Stefanik, semi-controversial pick there. She's no great person. Border czar, Tom Homan. I mean, this is one of these massive deportation type people over here. This is one of those like, yep, get on the bus, you're going, or you're going in a tent and everything. He's garbage. Pete Hesgeth comes from Fox News and is tattooed with Christian nationalist tattoos and everything. And when you see him, they certainly look very alt-right. They look very neo-Nazi-ish. They look very Proud Boy-ish. If you just happen to glance by and see him with his shirt off, you would almost be like, is this like a neo-Nazi? Actually, wait a minute. Here we go. I just saw, yeah, there you go. It's more than what is in this picture. But not, again, just not a good pick there. Secretary of Veteran Affairs, Doug Collins, and we have Michael Waltz Burgum, who opposed Trump. William McGinley, Dean John Sauer, Kristi Noem, the dog killer. So Kristi Noem admitted that she had an untrainable dog and had it put down. Also had a goat put down. Lee Zeldin from New York, failed campaign in New York. Mike Huckabee is also vehemently opposed to Hamas and Palestine, ridiculously pro-Israel. When it comes to Mike Huckabee, you can check out the things that he said. Tulsi Gabbard, a.k.a. Tuliksana Gabbardova. Hillary Clinton called her out as a Russian asset back in 2016, to which Tulsi tried to sue Hillary for that. And of course, it went nowhere and got dropped. When Russia is cheering and clapping at your picks, most specifically Tulsi Gabbard, you know that there is a problem. And Russian state TV has been weighing in on Trump for days now. They ran the nude pictures of Melania and laughed at it and laughed that America would, by association, pick something like that. The guy who is second only to Putin, Putin's right-hand man, has released statements to Russian state press that Trump needs to do a wink and a nod to the, quote, forces that elected him. And that immediately makes you wonder, like, what is a force that elected him? And this is not like fake news or anything. This is in Russian state media. It's been covered extensively, and it's not bad translations or anything. That is what he said. He said Trump needs to acknowledge the forces that got him elected. This one is another one people are talking about. Elon Musk and Vivek Trump are swampy. DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency. It's laughable because why are you going to create a government department when another department could already do that? And why are you going to have two people involved in it instead of just one? Also, Elon Musk is going around on Twitter promoting people to send in a resume for the position, but you have to be a registered Twitter user, one of the people who pay for it, and they're only going to look at, like, they just want the top 1% of the 1% to submit resumes. You're going to work 80 hours. I think there's even a rumor you're not going to get paid. What goddamn job on this earth solicits people from Twitter? Randos from Twitter submitting a resume that I don't even know how they're going to check on it, because what service are they going to use, like Starlink or Tesla's HR, to use their channels to investigate these people? Like, this is laughable. This is not an intelligent and well thought out and planned and focused America with Elon Musk and Vivek Trump or Swampy doing something like this. And I mean, in this way with the resumes and everything, it is ridiculous. Stephen Scavino, Stephen Miller, this guy is like a Richard Spencer white racist over here. Richard Spencer famously was pro-Trump in 2016, but then switched over to Biden in 2020 after the COVID debacle and said, quote, Trump is too stupid to get it done, flipped over to Biden, and Biden did exactly what he should have, and something that Trump does not do well. Biden immediately denounced the support. Like within a day, was like, no thanks, don't care. Whether or not he still, in fact, voted for Biden after being, snubbed or spurned like that, I don't know. But when you lose a racist, one of these white nationalists, like that kind of a person, basically almost like Ku Klux Klan level, when you lose somebody like that because of how stupid you are and you've shown yourself to be, that's saying something. But at least Biden denounced it instantly, whereas Trump refuses to denounce people properly because he just wants everybody's admiration, everybody's vote. He doesn't want to sway them away. He knows his base and he doesn't want to go against their base, no matter how awful they are. James Blair, Tyler Budovich, Sergio Gore, Stephen Chung, aka Oddjob from the James Bond movies over here. Crazy. And of course, Jason Miller has been palling around with Trump. Jason Miller is known for putting in abortion pills to his lover's smoothie, which caused an abortion of a child that he didn't want. Carolyn Levitt, as a press secretary, is going to be just as bad as Kayleigh McEnany. They are nearly identical. The relatively attractive blonde, who is probably just going to spew lies exactly like Kayla did. Kayla infamously dumped that supposed Trump health plan book on 60 Minutes and, then walked out, and 60 Minutes opened the book and it was not a health plan whatsoever. I don't know if it was actually a blank book, which is what the rumor was at the time, but we all know Trump never had a health plan. He never did anything to tackle Obamacare. Of course, McCain thumbed it down and everything, but he never enacted a replacement to it. He never repealed it. He never did anything. And I mean, the Trump health care plan is always coming in 2 weeks, just the way infrastructure is coming in 2 weeks. Marco Rubio, China Hawk. Here's the investigation of misconduct into Gaetz. Todd Blanche, one of his own lawyers, the hush money one. Of course, he was found guilty. Health and Human Services pick, Robert Kennedy Jr. I mean, making America great and healthy again is fine, but when you're healthy again is raw milk, which isn't pasteurized and has a chance of killing you, that is utterly ridiculous. The removing fluoride. There's Canadian towns who tried this, and immediately a lot of dental issues shot up. It's not just cavities. They were having mouth sores and a preponderance of bacteria in their mouth causing issues. Removing fluoride is not a good idea. Doug Collins, I don't know too much about, but he defended Trump in an impeachment hearing. Elise Stefanik has always been ridiculously pro-Trump. She's one of those people that's in that video of Boebert and Virginia Fox saying, shut up, when I think they were being approached by, hey, Republicans are saying they want to get rid of Social Security. What do you think about that? And she was like, she's one of like 4 or 5 ladies that are like, shut up, that's not true. Tom Homan, border czar. He was an acting director of U.S. Immigration Customs Enforcement during the first Trump go-round. The deportation of illegal aliens, and will that split families? Will the whole families go with them, even if they're naturalized? Pete Hesgeth, there we go, the Fox News guy. Tough, smart, true believer in America First. Has a military record. That's certainly good. He did the book, The War on Warriors, which is behind the scenes look at the betrayal of men who keep us free. Mike Walls, Green Beret veteran, another China Hawk. China has said they are ready this time. China is already getting in Trump's face saying, don't do this again. Trump failed miserably the first time in the trade war with China, where he had to use socialism to bail out the farmers in America's heartland. This time around, China has said, Trump, we are ready for you. If you try to do this bullshit again, we are going to fire right back. This is not the way to go. We don't think you should do this. Work with us, not against us. It's going to be interesting to see. Kristi Noem, dog killer, goat killer. Sparked controversy when she falsely claimed she had met with Kim Jong-un, and she did not. Revealed and shot she killed a 14-month-old dog named Cricket after failures in training. Doug Burgum, Department of the Interior, is going to be fantastic. He ran against Trump. Ratcliffe, I don't know much about. Okay. He investigated Hunter Biden, the FBI's use of Visa. Yeah, boy, that Hunter Biden investigation really went places. The dude's still guilty of the things that he did. Tulsi Gabbard, Russian plant. Lee Zeldin will likely strip the EPA the way Trump stripped it the first time. Terrible pick along the lines of DeVos and DeJoy. They were absolutely Satan picks for Trump in the first term. I mean, DeVos is pro-private schools, pro-vouchers and everything, anti-public schools, miserable, absolutely miserable lady. DeJoy is terrible. He has ruined the Postal Service. Huckabee, we know this one. Trumper Swampy and Musk, we know that one. McGinley was a White House cabinet secretary and served as a Republican National Committee. So this one doesn't seem too bad. Oh boy. The co-founder and head of Donald Trump Jr.'s publishing company. Oh God, yeah, that's really great there. He ran a super PAC. Oh boy. Stephen Chung, we're going to have to look at Odd Job over here. Carolyn Levitt, there she is. She's crazy. Assistants to the president, Scavino, Miller, James Blair, Budovich. So yeah, there you go. There are the picks. There are the issues. Project 2025 is tripping over themselves to be happy with these picks because they're so in the tank for the right wing, the deep right wing over there. Trump tries to distance himself from Project 2025. Nobody believes that. It is gaslighting when people say, you have to believe Trump. He says he doesn't know anything about Project 2025. It's all Democrat lies. Yeah, absolute bullshit. And of course, we're going to leave on this note over here that the algorithm on Twitter changed in the middle of the summer to boost Republican-leaning accounts and Elon Musk-owned accounts. I can tell you, non-anecdotally, I witnessed that myself. My Twitter feed started being all right-wing crap, and these ridiculous right-wingers like Dom Luker and all these other nuts that are on Twitter and post these right-wing baseless conspiracies and everything. And I had to go for weeks going, I don't want to see this post. Don't show me more posts from this person. And it was day after day after day, at least about 12 of those clicks a day until finally I got my Twitter back to what I typically go for. If he elects Kash Patel as a FBI director, this is the guy who is looking in two different directions with his eyes. It always freaks me out. He's been in bed with QAnon stuff. Here he is talking with Mel K. Mel K is one of these people that like Jovan Hutton Pulitzer, aka Jeff Fillion, pals around with, like her and Miranda Devine and all these others. She's QAnon adjacent. She's garbage. On her broadcast, if you look at the people that she's talked to, Kevin Sorbo, failed loser, Roseanne Barr, failed loser, racist, Ambien addict over there who she blames for her rants and everything like that. Jimmy Dore, really shitty comedian. Papadopoulos, Lindell, And here, Lara Logan, Kash Patel, and this one, Karlin Borisenko. If you don't know the name Karlin Borisenko, I would not blame you. She's a member of the New Hampshire Libertarian Party. She was pen pals with somebody in jail, and now it's a boyfriend, maybe a fiance or husband. I haven't kept up with it. But she is in league with a guy who was in jail for running a server that was hosting child pornography. That is who... First of all, if you look at the tweets from the New Hampshire Libertarian Party, they're crazy. They're absolute assholes. They're nuts. But Karlin, Dr. Karlin, as she calls herself, I don't know what she is a doctor of or what she's accredited in, but Karlin was dating somebody who was in jail for running a server that was hosting child pornography. She likes to try and pretend he didn't know what was on the server and all this other stuff, but it hits too close to home. I mean, there's so many people on the right that have been involved in these things. Like I mentioned, Anton Lazaro. Another perfect one is Tim Ballard with The Sound of Freedom. Everybody, when that came out, was like, you have to go see The Sound of Freedom. If you don't, you are a pedophile lover and all these other things. And now it is coming out that Ballard, and this was out beforehand, but now it's really coming out. Now the dam has busted open, that Ballard is basically like that fake CIA person in True Lies, you know, with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jamie Lee Curtis. There was that used car dealer that liked to pretend he was a spy, and he was like, okay, Jamie Lee Curtis, you're going to come with me and you have to pretend you're my wife and we have to really look like a loving couple. So let's go ahead and get it on. I mean, that's exactly what Ballard was doing. He's being held to task for it. Many people associated with Sound of Freedom, including major donors to it, are in a lot of trouble. Ballard is in a lot of trouble. And that's what happens with the hypocritical right. It's all projection. These people will sit there and say, oh, you know, you're this, you're that, if you don't believe in this thing and don't go along with it. And then it turns out that it's the complete opposite way. There's people who thought 2,000 Mules was the end-all be-all of election fraud proof. And then Dinesh D'Souza, Dinesh D'Felon, as I call him, had to pull his book twice. Once for a reprint because he was slandering people who were innocent. And then again permanently. And the movie's been pulled permanently because it was all a joke. None of it proved anything. So all of these people who spent years saying 2,000 Mules proves everything and you got to go watch it. You got to go watch it. If you say something about it, like clearly you didn't watch it because it proves. And yet the map of Gwinnett County, quote unquote, was actually a map of Russia. So many things they claimed in that movie were fake. We solved the murder. No, they didn't. The murder was already solved by the time they claimed to have sent the information to the GBI and the FBI, and the GBI and the FBI said, we never even got the information anyway. The pings were not true. The maps were stock images. It was a ridiculous farce. And now, of course, it has been pulled. It is not distributed because it was all fake. So, yeah. There we go, folks. Hope you enjoyed this particular video. I know it is a lot to download, but so many of these pics are just absolute trash. Calliope music is playing the whole time that Trump is picking these people. And America has become a circus with all of these. And we would expect a bunch of them not to go through. I think Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is not going to go through. Gaetz is not going to go through. Trump is already claiming he's tired of Elon. He keeps hanging around Mar-a-Lago and they can't get rid of him. Gaetz may be the sacrificial lamb. People are feeling that he's so bad for the position and enough Republicans are opposing him, aside from Democrats, that it could be just look over here, look at this train wreck, and then slipping in a few of these other nutters in the back door while the big nutter or the big controversial person gets thrown out. So to those who requested the video, I hope I did a good job in fulfilling your wishes and your expectations on this. And I'm sure we'll cover more of these as we go along. But oh man, so many of these are garbage. I mean, Kristi Noem, total garbage on that one. Tulsi Gabbard she was on a terror list. She is a Russian plant, and to put her as a director of national intelligence seriously compromises the U.S. The way Trump did when he walked out with the documents and was showing them to people and likely sold them to some of our adversaries. But that's a video for another day. Thanks for checking this out. Have a good one.